Alright, what's going on? Today we are talking 5 tools. 5 more tools. Because we already did 5 tools, but we're doing it again. I know that you guys love tool talk, as do I. So off the back of one of your suggestions, we're gonna do kind of like an ongoing series. 5 tools. This is part 2. Part 1 I will link below. Basically the reason for this is there's just too much good stuff out there. And instead of trying to narrow down my 5 favorite tools, I figure we just talk about 5 tools that are great, that are gonna help you guys out, make you more efficient, make you work smarter. So without further ado, let's jump into it. These are in no particular order, by the way. These are just like 5 tools that I'm rattling off. So that being said, number 1. I really don't think you can have too many clamps. I mean, I kind of want to be like one of those old dudes in the garage with like the whole wall is just like filled with clamps, just like a sea of clamps. That's what I want when I'm like 60 years old, wearing my apron and just shitloads of clamps back there. That's the goal. Anyway, a man can dream. So you've got your sash clamps, your G clamps, your F clamps, your C clamps. You've got mitre clamps, hand clamps, bench clamps, quick grip clamps, quick action clamps. I mean, the list goes on. I'm sure I've missed a few out, but you guys get the idea. Now, having a set of clamps, whether that be like in a workshop or on site, is crucial in my opinion. When you're on site, it can just make things safe without having to pop a nail in a nice new piece of timber. So you can climb up, clamp off a big beam that's sitting on top of a post, and you're not having to put holes in the timber with your nail gun. If you're in the workshop, clamps are probably even more handy. Whether you're just holding a piece of material still, or whether you're trying to laminate a bunch of hardwood, I mean, yeah. If you know, you know. Clamps are the best. It really is like having another set of hands, and let's be honest, labor's not cheap. So having that extra set of hands that you can throw in your toolbox is invaluable in my opinion. All right, that's enough about clamps. I think I said clamps too much. Anyway, number 2 on my list is a Mitre Finder. Now, this is a great little tool to keep in your kit at all times. You can pick one up for under $30 Australian, and these things are awesome if you were trying to work out the angle that you want to set your drop saw to. So let's say for instance, you're trying to install some skirting, but your wall isn't perfectly 90 degrees. Well, if you cut 2 45s, it's not going to work because the wall isn't 90. So you need to figure out what the wall is, and from there you can work out your mitre cut. Now, these things are really awesome if you're trying to work out tricky mitres. If you're working in an old house like this one, nothing is square, so it's super handy for that application. You can also use it for crown mouldings, architraves, beads and decking, which I tend to use it for quite a bit. Honestly, for the price, it saves you a lot of time. I mean, you could work it out with the bevel and transfer that mark onto your piece of timber, then figure out the degrees and then do some unnecessary maths, or you can just whip this thing out, push it into the corner, and you're good to go. So yeah, Mitre Finder. If you don't have one, go get one. All right, number 3 on my list is a pocket hole jig. Now, I was always a little bit skeptical about these things. I always saw the dudes on YouTube using these pocket hole jigs, and I don't know, I was always a bit hesitant, thinking like, is that really gonna hold? But it's pretty good. I went and bought the tight ass version. It was like 70, 80 bucks, and it basically allows you to do 1 pocket hole at a time. This is for when I was doing some cabinetry on my caravan. And yeah, it turns out the YouTube guys were right. These things are really, really cool. I kind of wish I've spent a little bit more money and got a bigger kit, which just allows you to do a couple of holes instead of having to move the jig around. It just comes with a few extra bits and pieces. and I think it will just last you longer. So that bigger outlay will probably get you years worth of use, where I kind of feel like I've already outgrown my single pocket hole jig. Now, if you're not sure what these things are, they are a great way to butt join two pieces of timber. Traditionally, that's not an easy thing to do. They can be really handy for some cabinet making type things. Not as handy if you're a site carpenter, but these two still come in handy. So all you site chippies, don't rule it out. They just give you a really strong joint and a neat and tidy joint too. Pair it with a bit of glue, you use the screws that they provide, and you're good to go. Alright, number 4 on my list. This isn't brand specific. Most companies make a version of this, but it's a 6-bay charger. Some of them do 4-bay chargers, 5-bay chargers, but the one I've got is this Bosch one. So the general idea of this thing is that you will never run out of your battery power. I'm sure most of us have been in a situation that it's the end of the day and you got 4 batteries that are all sitting between 0 and 50%. You pop one of those on charge, you leave to go home, you come back in the morning, you've still got 3 half-charged batteries. That is the nice thing about this 6-bay charger. You just pop 6 batteries in, and it basically charges all of them up to 80% and then tops all of them up that additional 20% once they all hit 80%. They call it a continuous charge. You can basically get an 8 amp hour battery to 80% in 42 minutes, and you can get them to 100% in 68 minutes. I'd much prefer to have 6 batteries at 80% than, like one at 100. There's also a override button that you can hit, and it will prioritize that battery. So if you're like, nah, I do want this battery to be 100%, click the button, it'll prioritize that one, and then that'll be good to go before all the others. And number 5 is my hearing protection, which, let's be honest, is super important when you're around these noisy tools all day. Plus, you can also block the boys out at work. You just pop them in and you're in your own little world. Now, I don't know how safe this would be if you're on a massive construction site. However, I work small residential, and if you have like a really boring task like sanding back these giant posts and it's going to take you 8 hours, then having these in, it drains out the sound of the sander, and it also provides you with a nice bit of entertainment, whack on a podcast or some music, and awesome. The ones I'm using are called Isotunes Pro 2. You can swap out the tips on them so they fit a larger range of ears, and you can swap between these squishy little rubber tips and these silicone tips. Now, the silicone tips aren't going to block out the noise as well, but they're probably a little bit more comfortable and they're a bit easier to slip in and out. Whereas the squishy foamy tips, they really seal up the ear canal nicely and they block out a lot of noise. Now on those tips, I've found that they just kind of fall off a little bit, which is annoying, pretty annoying. So I actually like Gorilla Glued the tips on, and after that they didn't fall off. So that's a little tip for your tips, but they have a really long lasting battery. I think something like 16 hours I can get on a single charge. I just plug them into my car so they're always juiced up. Connect really easy over Bluetooth 2.0, and they're also great for taking calls. It's got a noise cancellation function in it, so if you're doing something with a continuous sound like mowing a lawn or using like an electric sander, it will actually filter that sound out of the phone call, so the phone call is a lot more clearer for the person on the other end. Now, I think these can be had for like $160, $170, and that does seem like a bit of money, but your hearing's pretty important. Like, I've already got tinnitus from back in my musician days. Playing in bands and listening to extremely high levels of music for a solid decade. My ears are already fucked, so I'm now trying to look after them. So 160, 170 bucks for these. I think it's a decent investment. You can probably find some cheaper options that offer you a similar thing, but I've picked these up and I've been pretty happy with them. Yeah, that's it. That is 5 tools, part 2. Probably gonna be a part 3 because like I said, so much good shit out there. If you guys have anything that you think would be cool to feature on this little series, let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for an excuse to pick up new tools, so yeah, leave them down below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.